this is an iHeart podcast.
Welcome in Tuesday edition, Clay and Buck. 1 week exactly until we are officially on the election day of 2025. New Jersey, go vote. Virginia, go vote. New York City, go vote. I know there are other elections taking place. I voted for alderman today in my town of Franklin, Tennessee. So a lot of different aspects underway as we move into the election season of 2025. And in particular, by the way, we'll talk with our friend Riley Gaines, who AOC decided to attack out of nowhere over swimming. I was texting with Riley yesterday when this happened that a lot of these attacks seem like gifts because so many of the people that are attacking Riley for just saying men shouldn't be involved in women's sports. I can't believe that this has become such Democrat Party orthodoxy that AOC would decide kind of out of nowhere to just start tweeting at Riley Gaines angrily about her past swimming successes.
Speaking of swimming, I went for a rare dip in the Atlantic Ocean, technically Biscayne Bay, over the weekend. And right around the same time, there was, in fact, a shark attack, Clay.
Yes, 46-year-old guy got attacked. You sent me the link, and I was looking at it. And, can you imagine if you had gotten attacked by a shark after all our shark? This is why I don't want to tempt
our shark
fate
discussion. I'm
Alcatraz.
just saying, this is, I'm starting to worry about your Alcatraz swim a little bit here, buddy, which we've already committed to. And I'm going to be in that launch boat cheering you on, nice and warm with my Crockett hot cocoa, where we're going to start making by then. But this guy, I believe, was snorkeling, and it looked like he tried to touch the shark, which is a bad idea.
Oh, well, that's very, very different. Yes.
It was not a predatory attack. It was a leave me alone bite on the hand, and he had to go to the hospital. But technically, a shark attack not far from where I was swimming.
On Sunday, I was walking into church. This is 100% true. Guy I had not met before comes up, and he says that he is part of a long-distance swimming team, and they have been hearing us talk about he had swam Catalina, he had swam from Alcatraz, and they do regular long training sessions, and he was offering his skill set and his team to me as a training companion. This is, legitimately, as I am walking into church on Sunday, this gentleman I had never met before came up, and he wanted me to know that he had my back on the swims and that he and the team were ready to assist as necessary. And I told him, I said, well, I'm kind of getting a little bit terrified, not of the swim, but that I'm tempting fate and I'm going to be eaten by a shark. And he told me that I would be fine. So I hope he's right. But you narrowly avoided attack on a swim in Biscayne Bay. Speaking of attack, Buck, I cannot believe that New York City is really going to elect Zohran Mamdani. And the more videos I watch, the more deep dive I do on his life story, I'm not sure there has ever been a more transparent liar that has accomplished nothing in his life that is poised for an election victory like Mamdani is. 35 years old, never really done anything of any significance in his life, was raised in Uganda, and unbelievably, 24 years after 9/11, we really have hit the Norm Macdonald joke where everyone now says, oh, can you imagine on the left the Islamophobia that so many victims of 9/11 had to deal with? And Mamdani claimed to have an aunt that was afraid to wear her hijab on the New York City Metro after the 9/11 terror attack. And now, after it was pointed out that the aunt story couldn't possibly have been true, he now says it wasn't his aunt. It was actually his father's cousin who passed away a few years ago. This is after he was caught in the lie on an aunt. Let's play this. Cut 2, please.
I was speaking about my aunt.
I was speaking about Zerafoui, my father's cousin, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And for the takeaway from my more than 10-minute address about Islamophobia in this race and in this city to be the question of my aunt tells you everything about Andrew Cuomo.
I mean, why does that? I mean, if I said to you, Buck, something that, I mean, I've got two aunts that both deceased, but if I said something very specific about their life story at a point in my political career, it wouldn't be unfair for people to say, okay, tell me about these aunts of yours.
Yes, he made it an issue. You know, this is the Jussie Smollett. How dare you question me when I'm caught in my lie, sir? Well, yeah, actually, that's how this works. A few things on this, Clay. One is the lack of, first, Islamophobia is a nonsense term. I think Christopher Hitchens once said it's like a nonsense term used by thugs to silence idiots or something like that. It was essentially the whole point of Islamophobia is to create some word that shuts down criticism of aspects of a faith that now has about 2 billion adherents worldwide and is certainly something that people should be allowed to discuss. Phobia is an irrational fear of. There was a period of time where there was plenty of rational fear of radicalized elements from within the Islamic world. And by the way, there still is plenty of rational discussion to be had about elements of the Islamic world that are a problem for Western civilization and for the state of Israel, for America, for a whole bunch of things. Okay. But putting that aside for a second, a couple of things. One is, I mentioned this yesterday, it is to America's extreme credit that there was so little, to the American people, there was so little actual Islamic bigotry on display here after 9/11, given the scale of those attacks and the continued attacks that happened. This is something that gets lost in this discussion, Clay. There were further jihadist mass murders of Americans that went on for the better part of 2 decades here. It's kind of slowed down in the last few years, but it was a regular thing. Oh, another, bomb goes off somewhere, or someone's run down 10 people for no reason in the street in a mass murder attack. And so with all of that going on, and we had multiple wars and counterinsurgency operations going on against Islamist elements and billions and billions of dollars spent on security, we effectively have airport security lines because of Islamic radicalism. Thanks, Islamic radicalism. With all of that, they still have to make up stories like this. Zohran Mamdani, he's not telling a story about something that would be truly horrific and wrong. Oh my gosh, the firebombing of a mosque that occurred on, in Brooklyn, right? No, none of that happened. But he's a theater kid cosplaying a radical. And so it's totally normal for him to make up the story of the aunt who, among hundreds of thousands of Muslims in New York City, was the one who was too scared to ride the subway with her hijab. Give me a break, dude. Clay, the guy's a fake and he's a phony, but the people voting for him don't care.
Yeah, well, let me hit you with a couple of more clips that continue to get attention. This is in September of 2023. I know most of you know this, but maybe you've got friends or family out there. I just saw a report, Buck, that New York City's mayoral race is on track for the highest turnout since 1993. That was the Rudy Giuliani win. So WOR, people in New York City are woken up. There is a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of interest here. Let me play a couple of these cuts from Mamdani. This is September of 2023. We have to make clear, this is a quote, that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. This is Mamdani again, cut 3, September 2023.
The importance for me of international solidarity is that it takes me out of the American political landscape and reminds me just how tame some of the things are that I'm actually calling for or that I support. And it reminds me of the necessity of grounding ourselves in the struggles as opposed to the fights around the struggles. For anyone to care about these issues, we have to make them hyperlocal. We have to make clear that when the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, it's been laced by the IDF. We are in a country where those connections abound, especially in New York City. You have so many opportunities to make clear the ways in which that struggle over there is tied to capital's interest over here.
Okay, let me play one more, Buck. And again, he said when the NYPD boot is on your throat, it has been laced by the IDF. Here he is in 2020 saying, we don't need police. They don't create safety. We need to take the money and defund the NYPD. This is about as direct as you can be. Cut 33.
We need to defund these institutions. And I say that as somebody who has grown up in this city, who has seen what these cops can do, and who has seen the ways in which that police have been integrated into every part of our lives, that we had them in our high schools, that we had them in our middle schools. We do not need police to be in these places. They do not create safety. We need to take this money, defund the NYPD, and refund the people.
I mean, this is pretty straightforward. The guy has told you what at least he thought was popular at the time, which is he's a shape-shifting amoeba that is just an actor more than anything else, I think.
Here's the truth, Clay. It's like when they hit him with all these ads. All Cuomo's run a garbage campaign relative to what it should have been. For a guy who, you can tell that he's a Nepo baby who became governor because daddy was governor, and he has a last name that New York has recognized. He was a horrible governor, by the way. He's not a good campaigner. He's actually not a talented politician. He has not run a good campaign in the city of New York at all. And as I've said, if Mamdani's an F as mayor in waiting, Cuomo's maybe a C-. Better, but not great. Not great at all. And I think that the attacks on Mamdani saying he doesn't have enough experience, the people voting for him don't care. And the attacks on Mamdani that you and I are now leveling, which is that he's clearly a woke radical leftist who is anti-cop at his core, Clay, they've already gotten around this by saying, you know, he believed that then, he's apologized, he'll keep Jessica Tisch in her role as NYPD commissioner, whom everyone respects. And by the way, people do respect. But how long does he keep her in that role? And does he allow her to actually do the job the way she wants to? Does she end up resigning in a year in frustration because she's handcuffed, so to speak, from doing the job the way that she should, even if she's kept in that role? But Clay, that requires a degree of political wisdom, insight, and foresight that you and I and all of you with us now have, but the Mamdani voters don't. They're just going to excuse whatever they have to excuse. And by the way, a lot of them think that he's just fooling some of the normies and is still every bit the radical, and they like that, right? So,
yeah,
you know, we're preaching to the choir on how anti-cop he is, but they're playing this game very well in the Mamdani campaign.
We will play another couple of cuts, including Mamdani's dad saying that Hitler learned everything he knows from Abraham Lincoln. Again, these are direct words.
That would be news to Abraham Lincoln,
saying.
which is the most amazing thing. Abe would be like, whoa, I didn't know that I learned everything, or rather that I, taught everything
that he was
Hitler
the inspiration for Nazism, according to Mamdani's dad. This is what he's been raised to believe. And this race, again, there's data out there that suggests that we may be headed for the highest turnout in a mayoral race since 1993. So maybe there is hope that I could be wearing a red beret for a week on the program. Curtis Sliwa is going to join us tomorrow and make the case for why I'm a moron. And some of you have already signed on to that. We'll play some fun feedback on that. Look, having a lifeline during an emergency is key. Rapid radios can be that lifeline. These are modern-day walkie-talkies. They work on a nationwide LTE network. Rapid radios will keep you connected to family members, particularly when you experience service disruptions caused by natural disasters or power outages. They're small. They fit in the palm of your hand. They're easy to use. Just press a button and boom, you can talk to anyone, anywhere in the U.S. that's also carrying one. Rapid Radios has a battery that lasts for up to 5 days. This holiday, give a gift that keeps you connected to the people you love. No monthly fees, no complicated setup, just pre-programmed, reliable communication when it counts. Because when everything else goes silent, Rapid Radios won't. Go to rapidradios.com. Make sure you and your family always have a way of staying connected. That's rapidradios.com.
Saving America. One thought at a time. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Find them.
Life's messy. We're talking spills, stains, pets, and kids. But with Anabae, you never have to stress about messes again. At washablesofas.com, discover Anabae sofas, the only fully machine washable sofas inside and out, starting at just $699. Made with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics. That means fewer stains and more peace of mind. Designed for real life, our sofas feature changeable fabric covers, allowing you to refresh your style anytime. Need flexibility? Our modular design lets you rearrange your sofa effortlessly. Perfect for cozy apartments or spacious homes. Plus, they're earth-friendly and built to last. That's why over 200,000 happy customers have made the switch. Upgrade your space today. Visit washablesofas.com now and bring home a sofa made for life. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
We have some things to update you on. One, Clay, just this is a pickup from yesterday. Remember how I played Governor Hochul, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul,
Yes.
the accidental governor. In fact, only the governor, because Cuomo was grabbing ladies by the waist and kissing them close to the mouth, but not on the mouth, but in Italian fashion. Hochul was claiming that she doesn't even know what the crowd was chanting. They were chanting at the left-wing loon rally, tax the rich, tax the rich. We played that yesterday, and I said this, they're moving from race communism to more old school class communism, right? The original communism is just a religion of state envy, or rather of state enforced envy that always turns into totalitarianism. That's what real communism is. It's not about the workers and the revolutionary proletariat and all. That's all the make believe stuff. Once you get into like the final boss level of communism, it's just, totalitarianism that roots itself deep into the public psyche via envy and hatred of all that is good. That's what actual communism is. And envy is at the core of it all. Here is Kathy Hochul, though, Clay. I'm going to play Mamdani's dad in a second, but I just wanted to update this. Kathy Hochul realizes that, she's the governor of New York. Maybe going all in on tax the rich as a slogan at a rally is not so great. So now she's like, I don't even know what they were saying. Play 9.
I thought they were saying "Let's go Bills." I wasn't sure. When you're up there, I heard some noise. I heard a lot of cheers. But later on, it became clear to me that I know there's passion for that. I mean, I went in there as the leader of the Democratic Party, whose job it is to unify behind the Democratic nominee. I love the energy out there. I told them that. And I want to do is bottle all that up, use it in a few days, but take that to Long Island and the Hudson Valley.
Clay, Kathy Hochul, let's play a game. Moron or liar?
Liar here. Sometimes often a moron, but she did not think they were saying "Let's go Bills." I mean, tax the rich was pretty clear. I mean, you and I could hear it. We were not at the rally. And if you were at the rally, you would have seen some people's faces and been able to lip read them as well as they were chanting "tax the rich." I think there is a quiet panic setting in among Democrats that know what it takes to win elections, that if AOC and Mamdani are the face of the Democrat Party, they're in trouble. And really, liberal became such a negative word for the Democrats that they really ran away from it. They talk about being progressives now. I think New York City liberal and California liberal is going to be a huge part of the 2026 campaign. Because I think if you look at New York City, you're going to have Mamdani, you're going to have AOC, you're going to have Schumer, and you're going to have Hakeem Jeffries. That's 4 New York City guys and gals. And you're just going to say those are New York City liberals. And then as as Newsom gears up to run for the presidency, I think California liberal will also be an insult. And I think increasingly the decisions being made by places like New York and LA are at extreme odds with the rest of the country in a way that the Democrat Party recognizes is toxic to their brand in what they would call flyover country. And they have to win some of those races in order to have power to enact the agendas of New York and LA. Heck, Buck, even San Francisco. I think you got to give some credit to their new mayor, Daniel Lurie. He seems sane, right? On a level that Mamdani is not sane, on a level that Brandon Johnson in Chicago is not sane, on a level that Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, is not, right? Those are people who are clear failed left-wing politicians. I think some cities, Muriel Bowser seems somewhat reasonable, right? The mayor of Washington, D.C. The mayor, and I'm saying that from a Democrat context perspective, not that I agree with everything they do, but just, hey, Trump trying to drive down violent crime in Washington, D.C., hey, I'm kind of in favor of that. That's Muriel Bowser. Daniel Lurie, the mayor of San Francisco, actually negotiating with Trump to try to say, hey, we're trying to implement a lot of the policies you want to put in place, but if I do it, maybe we can get it through without the chaos that might come from people who just hate you in San Francisco, rejecting the choices you're making even when they're rational. My biggest concern, Buck, is they make all these choices that are awful, and then they still are going to just say, well, the reason why, this didn't work, because we didn't tax rich people enough, because we didn't go far left wing enough. That's the reason why the policies that we're trying to put in place fail. That's my concern about Mamdani. If he wins, that they will refuse to accept responsibility if he tries to put these policies in place.
I'm sorry, Clay. Are you trying to suggest that if he's as much of a disaster as you and I and every sane person with us right now thinks he will be, the voters of Mamdani will claim that real Mamdaniism has never been tried? It's very sad. It's very sad. It's very true. It's very, very certain. All right. Speaking of Mamdani, I will say also, everyone butchers this guy's name all the time. It's amazing. It shouldn't be that hard to say, but for some reason, going from the M to the N, I think.
Am I mispronouncing this, or is this one of the few? Zohran Mamdani, right? Like, I can pronounce this.
Mamdani, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people say Mandani.
Yeah.
Mamdania. They get all kinds of things going on here. All right, let's get into his dad. Let's talk about his dad for a second here. Zohran Mamdani's father, who's a Columbia University professor, of course. Mahmoud Mamdani. This is not long ago.
I know.
Here is Zohran's dad on this country that, remember, Zohran is here as a refugee. Zohran is here because the place that he came from was not a place he could stay, right? I mean, I think his dad came here from Uganda. And whether he's not technically a refugee, he's certainly an immigrant, because Uganda, it's got problems. It's got a little bit of problems.
Not a place that a lot of people choose to go from a Western civilized country, right? There's just not that many people who are like, hey, where are you headed next? Oh, I was thinking about America. I was thinking about England, maybe Germany. And then I chose Uganda instead. I don't think a lot of people make that choice. It was Italy or it was Uganda. Yeah, most people, including Mamdani's own family, have made the choice to come back. I do love, Buck, that while he doesn't trust the NYPD, when he goes to Uganda, they have a full security force protecting the family.
Yes, but of course. But of course. Here is his dad back in 2022, Columbia University Professor Mamdani. Play at 6.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. And the American model was exported all around the world. Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized two things. One, that genocide was doable. It is possible to do genocide. That's what Hitler realized. Second thing Hitler realized is that you don't have to have a common citizenship. You can differentiate between people. The Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws. Anyway, the U.S. put Indians in reservations. The U.S. invented the model.
This is not true. I mean, first of all, when he talks about settler colonialism, I think he's trying to speak specifically in the context of Israel as an apartheid state here, because obviously America was a colony. It was a colony of settlers. And then we fought a revolution to become free. I don't know if he just skipped that part of American history, but it was actually the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, the British. They were the ones who created this model. Not us.
This is actually, this argument that he makes, Buck, this is why I was so annoyed and have not given them any money
What
since.
annoys Clay the most is not the hatred of America, it's the wrong history. The history wrong.
You can hate America. You have the right to hate America. But at least rooted in historical accuracy. This is like and don't placate those who hate America and are rooted in historical stupidity. This is like what happened at my university, George Washington University. GW is now the revolutionaries. They were the colonials, but they decided that the colonials had too much of a context of connection to colonialism, so they changed the name of the mascot. We were the colonial army. We were the colonized who threw off the oppressive colonialism that we were founded upon, right? So, if anything, in the history, we're the heroes of the colonial worldview because we took independence from the places that had colonized us.
In fact, there were countries where very explicitly the removal of the colonial overlord was premised upon the American success in this, right? One example would be Haiti. But there are many
successful
others,
revolution in the Western Hemisphere, probably. But I mean, yes, Buck, to your point, when in New York City, where you grew up, one of the first things they did was tear down the statue of the king and turn it into lead bullets. I mean, that is pretty explicitly anti the colonial power that puts you in place. So, yes, his argument is bastardized, and what it is really designed to do, and this is where the identity politics worldview comes in, is white men are evil. If you look at what the motivation is, by and large, of the modern-day Democrat Party, at its essence, at its base, it is white men are evil. That's what they all believe. Now, some of those white men, who take their wives' names, are voting also to say white men are evil. There's a not insubstantial cadre of white people that thinks that white people are evil.
In the wokeness. They are collaborators. That's not
and some would argue white women are actually the founders and primary principal drivers of the woke virus in general. In fact, I think that's likely true, but it relies on the villainy of white men. That is the foundation of the Democrat Party. And so when Mamdani's dad is making the argument that that all that is evil is rooted in the United States, it's an intentional argument because what it leads to is a delegitimization of the country and its founding and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and you can tear it all down, as we saw physically happen in 2020.
There's also an argument that I've thought of, maybe, Clay, for a future book, but it would be very detailed and and have to get deep into the history. But one of the challenges that the Western world has when it comes to all of this wokeness and historical oppression stuff is that we actually have written histories that go back quite a ways. A lot of other parts of the world don't.
Yeah.
And so it's harder for people to know, for example, like you all know that the Portuguese and the Spanish and the French and the British, etc., Western European countries in the age of exploration, starting right around the early 1500s after Columbus lands in 1492, they start going all over the world. They start exploring, and yes, they fight and they take over pieces of land, sometimes more peacefully than others, but a lot of the time with violence, and a lot of the time they spread disease. But do people know about all of the tribes that were exterminating each other beforehand? Do people know that the great victory of the Inca people, for example, was the consolidation of their empire just a generation before the arrival of the Spaniards? The consolidation of an empire that enslaved and murdered countless other tribes. They don't even talk about this. You talk about the native South Africans. And this came up recently when Trump was talking about South African refugees. How many of the people that teach about settler colonialism, for example, at Columbia University, even know that the Zulus were colonists? The Zulu tribe arrived and through warfare and conquest and enslavement of those who were there in advance of the Zulus became the primary tribe in that region. And the areas that originally the South African Dutch colonists colonized or uninhabited.
Well, I mean,
this is just not taught. No one knows these things. This is all true.
This is also the story of human civilization is human populations moved to areas where there was no people, right? Like, so at what point does land, it's really kind of amazing, right? The whole argument is premised on, to your point, a fact that the historical record is very limited, but land is like, at what point do you say, oh, this land is owned by someone? When do they become the owners? The whole premise is just absolutely ridiculous.
Also,
and these land acknowledgments, which are now the basis of almost every major Democrat event, you know, they start off by apologizing to the initial owners of the land or dwellers of the land.
The great exterminators, if you're going to look for them, of other human beings would certainly be the Mongols, actually, in the 13th. How many of you sit around thinking a lot about the Khwarezmian Empire? You might not have even heard of the It was actually huge. It was gone. They killed basically all of them, the Mongols. They showed up. They didn't like them. They killed all of them, every man, woman, and child, because that's how they used to do things. The notion, Clay, that America came up with the idea of genocide in all of human history is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Only a truly historically ignorant person who hates white men would say such a thing, and that is where Mamdani's dad comes down on this. We're bringing it full circle. Let's talk about something happy for a second. I'm going to tell you, this is honestly the case. I love my sheets from Cozy Earth so much that now I'm getting another pair of them because I just only want to have Cozy Earth sheets on the bed. Carrie also loves, they've got this big, amazing blanket that's now on her couch that we kind of fight over it. Gives me an excuse to play a little footsie with the wife, though, because we share the blanket. It's good times. Cozy Earth is amazing. Clay loves them. I love them. They're so soft, so comfortable. We've even got Cozy Earth sheets on the crib for baby Speed. They make a special sheet for cribs. Just all their products are so comfortable. They're going to make your home so cozy, hence the name. Black Friday has come early at CozyEarth.com. Use my name, Buck, as your promo code on top of their site-wide sale for up to 40% off. Go online to CozyEarth.com today. Use my code Buck and share luxury this season. During the checkout process, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth from Clay and Buck. That's CozyEarth.com. Use code Buck for up to 40% off.
Want to be in the know when you're on the go? The Team 47 Podcast. Trump highlights from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
People ask us all the time how we can save the next generation.
We've got our show, and the info is an antidote, but we also have a couple books coming out, Clay.
That's right, and you can pre-order both of them right now and be book nerds just like us.
You'll laugh, you'll nod, and you'll get smarter, too.
Mine's called Balls, How Trump, Young Men, and Sports Saved America.
And mine is Manufacturing Delusion, How the Left Uses Brainwashing, Indoctrination, and Propaganda Against You.
Both are great reads. One might even say they would make fabulous gifts.
Indeed. So do us a solid and pre-order yours on Amazon today.
Welcome back in. Hour number 3, Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show. A lot of positive things. I always try to make sure that I talk about the positivity as much as I possibly can. We are continuing to set new all-time records. In fact, the S&P 500 new all-time record as I am speaking to you. The Dow Jones Industrial Average new all-time record as I am speaking to you. And the NASDAQ new all-time record as I am speaking with you. All-time records. For those of you out there that own stock in any way, pensions, 401ks, individual stocks, chances are if you happen to go gander at your stock values, they have never been higher in your life. And I do just want to continue to point it out that in April, you were told, oh my goodness, the stock market is collapsing. Donald Trump has no idea what he's doing with the economy. And the S&P 500 is up 2,000 points since then. If you had bought stock back in April, you're up around 40% now on those stock purchases. If you merely just held on to your existing stocks and just didn't even pay attention to any of it, this year the S&P 500 is up right at 18% so far. You might say, okay, well, Clay, how does that contextualize? On average, the S&P 500 is going to be up around 9%. on average. Some years you might lose 20, some years you may make 20. But this year is a very good year so far for stocks, and we are at record highs. So, I understand also those of you out there who say, Clay, man, you don't know what you're talking about. The economy's not as good on the ground as you're saying. I get it. And I think a lot of that is still working through the disaster that was the Biden economy. In general, the stock market runs 6 or 12 months in advance of the economic conditions you see on the ground. And so all of this is very positive. Trump is trying to make the economic conditions better for all of us on the ground. And right now, he's in Asia. He is meeting with Japan. Saw this morning that he had a great reception in Japan. He is scheduled to be in South Korea. Buck, I don't know if you saw this. Some whispers that he might meet Kim Jong-un again. Remember how quickly the meeting with North Korea's reclusive dictator happened in the past. He's going to be in South Korea, Trump is. He's going to be meeting with Chinese Premier Xi. So there is some possibility maybe there'll be additional aspects of that. As part of his travel, on Air Force One, Trump has been answering questions quite a lot. And among those questions, let's play a couple of these cuts because I thought they were entertaining, and I want to make sure that we keep you updated with what the president is saying, even as we are following the New York City's mayor race. Tomorrow, we will have Curtis Sliwa on the program. And even as we are following what's going on in New Jersey and Virginia, 1 week from today is the 2025 elections, also coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Trump's record win in 2024. But Trump yesterday on Air Force One was asked about would he be running in 2028, this obsession. Here is cut 21.
We have great people. I don't have to get into that, but we have one of them standing right here. We have JD, obviously. The vice president is great. I think Marco's great. I think, I'm not sure if anybody would run against us. I think if they ever formed a group, it would be unstoppable. I really do. I believe that. I would love to do it. I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me.
Okay, so Trump talking again, the obsession, Trump 2028. I'm going to be honest with you, Buck. I wish he could run again. I mean, I know he's 79, but he's not going to run. I wish he could. I do think the idea of a J.D. Marco ticket, unity from the start, is starting to get some momentum. Do you buy the idea that that duo, Marco Rubio obviously has 768 different jobs inside of the Trump administration right now, primarily Secretary of State, J.D. Vance, VP. Do you buy the idea that those guys might just say, hey, let's keep the band together and have a unity ticket, and we might not even see that much drama in 2028? That Trump might just say, hey, these are my guys. I'm not going to run. I'm 83 years old, but they have my complete and total endorsement. I could see a world where people just say, yeah, I like this team. I like how things are going. You buy this? I mean, because I'm starting to think it's more and more of a possibility that they just say, hey, we're a unity ticket. We're Trump 2.0, 3.0, however you want to say it. And let's not have all the drama of this huge fight. Let's just keep things rolling. What do you think? Is it too clean?
It all sounds great, and it would be phenomenal in so many ways. A lot can happen in 2.5 years, my friend.
Certainly.
This is the thing. This is the way we think the story should go. And that to me means it's unlikely that is the way the story will play out. That's how I view this.
Yes.
It should go this way. There is a pathway, but remember, I was doing shows, Clay, in 2019. I was doing the solo Buck shows in 2019 where I was saying, guys, the country, things are great. Enjoy it. Trump's kicking ass. Economy's phenomenal. We're at peace. Things are great. And then, boom!
A few months later, you're doing TikTok video dances by yourself in your apartment in New York City.
We don't have to go back to that trauma every time. It was very difficult.
I still want to see the TikTok dances.
My hair was getting longer and my waist was getting bigger every day of the COVID pandemic. And I'm doing these TikTok dances alone in my tiny apartment in New York, surrounded by lunatics who don't think you can go outside.
I would have. I mean this. I walked into your apartment. The first thing I said was, I was like, I would have gone insane we didn't really do COVID here in Franklin, Tennessee. Just basically like March and April and maybe a little bit of May. People were like, a little bit. And then it was kind of over. And then every time I see people, some of you guys still have a lot of post-traumatic stress. You LA, you New York, Chicago residents who really had to go through the chaos and the insanity.
You LA people, a lot of them had yards. They had the nice weather.
More so. But I mean, Gavin Newsom was arresting paddleboarders. I mean,
that's true.
They wouldn't even let them walk on the
I'm just
trails.
saying, New York turned into a prison camp with masking. It was insane.
The only reason to live in New York City is to be able to experience the city. Anybody who has ever had to be cloistered in tiny little apartments, I do think New York had it the worst of everybody. I would have lost my mind. I certainly wouldn't have been able to stay. Trump being Trump, by the way, in addition to saying, hey, JD and Marco could be an incredible team, he also decided to tee off on Jasmine Crockett, and he challenged them to a cognitive test, AOC. We're going to talk about AOC coming after our friend Riley Gaines here in a moment. But Trump also challenged AOC and Jasmine Crockett to a cognitive test, and you'll want to hear this. Cut 22.
All I can tell you is that we have a great group of people, which they don't. They have Jasmine Crockett, a low IQ person. They have AOC's low IQ. You give her an IQ test. Have her pass, like, the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed. Those are very hard, they're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. Let AOC go against Trump. Let Jasmine go against Trump. I don't think Jasmine, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, When you get up to about 5 or 6, and then when you get up to 10 and 20 and 25, they couldn't come close to answering any of those questions.
I mean, he is just
you know what's really unfair is if Trump doesn't run again, and I think that he does just like to say that he's going to run again because it upsets the libs so much. But if he doesn't run again, Clay, our jobs will never be as entertaining as they have been in the Trump era because he makes. You guys even remember what it was like back in the days when, everything Obama said was genius and perfect. It was boring and generally useless and often lies and wrong. In the Bush era, whatever, people just said stuff, Clinton. Clinton stuff got a little spicy toward the end, as we know. But in general, we did not have a president who just says hilarious things all the time.
I mean, can we play the end of that clip? I mean, the part where, it's not scripted, right? Where he just talks about, I presume that they're showing you pictures of animals as a part of the cognition test. But can we play like the last 10 seconds of that again? Because, his comedic timing and the fact that people don't get his sense of humor, I feel like so many people who have Trump derangement syndrome, really what they have is an inability to process tone and context. Because, how could you not laugh at this at the end of this answer? Maybe we don't have the ability to pull it back. But
they're really aptitude tests, I guess, in a certain way, but they're cognitive tests. Let AOC go against Trump. Let Jasmine go against Trump. I don't think Jasmine, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, When you get up to about 5 or 6, and then when you get up to 10 and 20 and 25, they couldn't come close to answering any of those questions.
All right, so Jasmine Crockett has fired back, Buck. Jasmine Crockett says, I got into college on my own. Trump didn't. This is Jasmine Crockett responding to Trump saying she has a low IQ. Cut 23.
I'm waiting on a reporter, and maybe it'll be you, Caitlin, that finally ask him what is his IQ. Because he is constantly talking about, he doesn't even know what a low IQ is. He don't even know which scores are low. And I can guarantee you that whatever score, if he's taken one anytime recently, I'm sure that his qualifies as low. Listen, he's never been known to be an Einstein. This is not a guy who got in on merit when it came to going to college. This is someone who, but for him being born with a silver spoon, probably wouldn't have got into anybody's institution, unlike me. So, I am not worried about that. And I wish people would look at the fact that you have a president of the United States who consistently is obsessing over 2 women of color that are members of the House.
Okay. So the whole women of color thing, is Jasmine Crockett, in your opinion, and elite intellect, Buck? I'll answer first. No. And it's not just Jasmine Crockett. I'm disappointed. I bet you are on some level, too. You know who's really disappointed by it is Laura Travis, my wife. There are a lot of people who represent us in Congress and in the Senate that are not high intellect. That's not ideal. They're also not great communicators. That is really not ideal. Like, we are not represented in general, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, by the most accomplished and intellectually sound and great communicators out there. I think one thing that Trump diagnosed in politics was that he could have the success he had with no background in politics because there are a lot of lightweights that he is knocking out and pushing around, candidly, when it comes to arguments and it comes to the political direction of the country.
All true. And this is why we continue to hope for reform of our government system, yet we have people who are so often buffoons representing us in our government system. So there's a problem there. It's a bit like how we all want to tackle the debt, but we don't want any of the good spending to stop. Talk more about this. But look, AI is being used in our everyday lives more and more, and it's only going to get bigger. I've read and reread the White House's plans for artificial intelligence. It's a huge priority for President Trump and his administration. And so I'm writing about this in my new weekly e-newsletter because there's just not enough time here on the program to get deep into these details. This newsletter is called Money and Power, and I really hope you'll consider subscribing to it. I work with a team of fantastic financial researchers as well to take some of the big political stories and translate it into how you can benefit in the markets. And in fact, something that I'm referring to as Manhattan Project 2. This is all about leveling the playing field so everyday folks can profit from the markets. And this Trump stock market is obviously going incredibly well. Get a subscription today. Sign up for your subscription at insider2025.com. Insider2025.com. I think you're going to really enjoy it. That's insider2025.com, paid for by Paradigm Press.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Mic drops that never sounded so good. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's be real. Life happens. Kids spill. Pets shed. And accidents are inevitable. Find a sofa that can keep up at washablesofas.com. Starting at just $699, our sofas are fully machine washable inside and out. So you can say goodbye to stains and hello to worry-free living. Made with liquid and stain-resistant fabrics. They're kid-proof, pet-friendly, and built for everyday life. Plus, changeable fabric covers let you refresh your sofa whenever you want. Need flexibility? Our modular design lets you rearrange your sofa anytime to fit your space, whether it's a growing family room or a cozy apartment. Plus, they're earth-friendly and trusted by over 200,000 happy customers. It's time to upgrade to a stress-free, mess-proof sofa. Visit washablesofas.com today and save. That's washablesofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. We are excited to be joined by our friend Riley Gaines. I don't think you've been on since you officially became a mom, so let's start there before we get into you versus AOC. We have a lot of moms out there and dads. Buck is a recent new dad, as you know. What has most surprised you about being a mom that maybe you didn't anticipate? How has it gone so far? Do you have any advice for maybe expectant moms that might be out there listening that have not had baby one yet based on your experience? And congratulations.
Well, thank you. And congratulations to Buck, too. Look, I will say the thing that has surprised me most is honestly, and look, I know my experience is, one thing, and it is very different than other women. But honestly, how easy it is. I think, especially as women, especially as younger women, you get wrapped up in all the horror stories. I heard them all during pregnancy. Everyone told me, well, you just wait. And I kept waiting, and none of the bad things that all of the women said were going to happen happened to me. I had a fantastic pregnancy. And then it was, okay, well, you just wait until delivery. And delivery came, she was born, and the process was a breeze. And then it was, okay, well, you just bank up on your sleep now because you're not going to get any sleep when she's here. And let me tell you, I've slept like a dream. She's been just the best baby. And so I think the message that I want to send is that there are good stories out there too. It has been just the most magical past 4 weeks. She'll be a month tomorrow, which is insane. It's gone so quick.
Isn't it the best, Riley? The first one, it's my first one too. It's been so much fun. And honestly, I share a lot of your sentiment because people, and I know a lot of it was well-intentioned, but there's this, oh, congratulations to the baby. You're never going to sleep again and your life is going to be so hard. That wasn't even true for us. The baby was hit the 5-month sleep regression, and we've actually since worked with the baby and now is sleeping great again. But our baby slept like a baby. It was fine. And it's been amazing. And I just want more of them. I don't know. I just feel like there's a little bit of a strange, even on the right, a strange cultural, like batten down the hatches thing where everything, I mean, you were a super high level swimmer. I'm sure you had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning a lot and spend a lot of time in the pool. And that's not always fun or what you want to do, but it's really worthwhile.
That's it. And that's the exact same with motherhood. I think there's an attempt to, again, especially when we're talking about younger women, to scare them out of it, honestly. And I think you guys both know we live in this whataboutism culture where you share these stories and you almost feel shameful for doing it because you'll have someone else who will say, well, what about my experience or what about this? And they want us to feel shameful for having these great experiences. But I'm just here to say, hasn't been that way with us. We've had a fantastic experience.
I just want to say, Riley, I've had people yell at me before because I just shared the positive experience that I've had of making walking a part of my daily routine. People get mad at me. They're like, of course you think walking is, Mr. like radio. I thought walking, I mean, unless you have some real problem, like that's something we could all enjoy and share in. But I just want to tell you, even when you give people the most solid and positive and kind-hearted advice, there will be people who are angry at you.
100%. Yeah. Walking probably also makes you a racist too. So
it is funny that you would say,
of course, now.
Yeah, you got to give reparation. That you would say, that anybody would say, hey, maybe you should just walk a little bit more. And the response is, well, you're elitist. Like, I think walking's something that most of us share. All right. So you texted me yesterday, and it reminded me of you texting me when Simone Biles came after you. So for those who do not know, AOC decided kind of out of nowhere. I mean, you tell us the story, Riley, to just attack you. And I think my immediate response was, this is so great for you, which was the same thing when Simone Biles did it. And I'm sure you had the same reaction because there's so many fake accounts out there. Like, my initial reaction is, okay, let's make sure it's actually Simone Biles. Let's make sure it's actually AOC, because this is such a ridiculous, bad angle to be attacking someone on that I can't believe it's real. So tell people who don't know, you're sitting around yesterday afternoon and AOC decides kind of out of the blue to come after you. What happened?
It's so funny you mentioned that about Simone Biles because honestly, it's virtually like the exact same realization and actions that I went through when this happened, because I'm sitting there now, especially being a new mom, I'm not on my phone all the time, but I see this notification pop up and it says, AOC mentioned you in a comment. I click on it and I read it, and it says something to the effect of, if you channeled all of your anger towards swimming, maybe you would have been faster, or something to the effect.
Better than fifth in all of American NCAA swimmers. This is the line of attack she decided to hit you with. You're only the fifth best at something in the entire United States. That doesn't, I'd love to be the fifth best at anything, by the way. But yes, that's what she decided to attack you with.
It is so true. Like, it proves this line of defense, or these arguments that they're using, it proves that they know nothing about sports. And honestly, it's pretty utterly misogynistic because, I mean, you think about it, Clay, would she call the fifth best college football player in the nation mediocre or bad at his sport or whatever, or the fifth best college basketball player? No way she wouldn't say that. But because it's, number one, I think women's sports, which is hilarious because they claim to care about and watch women's sports. And two, I think a less mainstream sport like swimming, of course, this is more of a niche sport. It's, if you're not the best, if you're not on the Olympic team, if you're not getting gold medals at the Olympics, then you're actually just not good at your sport. And that was AOC's line of defense. So, or her argument that she went with there. And so, just why
can I just put,
you can have this 6 foot, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you, Riley. Go ahead.
No, I think the point is you have two sides of this argument. One side is to be with and standing for women who merely want fair competition, safety in their sports, and privacy in areas of undressing. And the other side is the side of the 6'4" man who was 462nd the year prior when competing against the men and who flashes women in the locker room. And AOC made the side that she chose very clear.
Now, I have to ask you, Riley, because you understand how competitive sports are, and you're somebody who knows the work that has to go into it and just the realities of the sports world. We haven't really gotten to know each other that well, but there's a controversy out there about whether or not, as a recreational middle-aged tennis player, I will be able to get a 100-mile-an-hour serve on camera as evidenced by a speed gun. Now,
which let me interrupt him here. This has been several months where he hasn't, in good weather, I'm just going to point out where there hasn't been a test going on, Riley, just for your ability and erudition.
Riley, just so you understand, we already have a 97 on the record, okay? 97 miles an hour. But Clay and some of the doubters in this audience think that I will not be able to with a little more limber shoulder and a little more, of the old.
Riley, during the show commercial break, he has a rubber band that he is stretching out his shoulder with.
Clay, that was for the trust tree. That's not for airing on the radio. Anyway,
I mean,
Riley,
seriously, there's got to be a clip of this. Go ahead.
Do you think, what side of this bet? I have till the end of the year. I'll decide that much. I have till the end of the year, which now takes me through, I got about, 8 weeks to get this done. Can it be done by yours truly, yes or no?
Honestly, Buck, I think there is a more plausible chance of you serving a 100-mile-per-hour serve than there is Clay Travis actually swimming Alcatraz.
Wow.
I'm just sitting here innocent and much like Riley when AOC came after, I'm just a nice, kind, considerate person here, and I just got 2x4'd, Hacksaw Jim Duggan style by Riley here.
Which I invited Clay in July. You're both invited next July to do this. I think we could make something out of it.
Can I doggy paddle the Alcatraz swim, or is that too gauche?
Honestly, the worst part is how cold it is.
Oh.
That's the worst part of all of it.
I am both less buoyant and less insulated than I used to be, Clay. So that's one of the few times this was not to my advantage.
Well, I saw your husband, Louis, and he was saying that there are moments where you think about sharks. Did you this is the part that I'm actually now is in my head. I'm not going to lie. The idea of getting attacked by a shark while trying to do this. You did this pregnant. Did you truly have no fear of sharks at all, Riley, when you got in the water? Like, didn't even cross your mind? Or at some point when you're in the depth of the swim there, did you think, hey, this is a little bit scary?
It's so funny looking back because you're right. I did this at, 7 months pregnant, and you're kind of in the middle of the ocean, and you reach a point where it gets really cold, and I think that indicates, of course, that the water gets deeper, and in those moments, it's a bit unsettling. Like, oh gosh, what is swimming underneath me? But sharks, I don't think I'm really scared of sharks. I watched Soul Surfer growing up. Bethany Hamilton actually is she's just a dear friend of mine. But sharks are never something that really scared me. Louis, he's actually sat right next to me. We're in the car together now. He's just a sissy, is what it is.
I'm a sissy with Louis then. Let me ask you this though, back on the AOC thing, Riley, and tell Louis we said hi too. Why do you think she decided to attack you kind of out of nowhere? It's the same question that I had when I saw Simone Biles come after you. It's not an attack that makes her look better. To your point, attacking someone for only being the fifth best at something. Again, I would love to be the fifth best at anything. So would everybody out there listening. It's not a good line of attack. Where is this coming from? Is it organized? Do you think somebody is asking her to do it? Was she looking for this opportunity? And then you've offered to debate her, and she followed up again. I think you were on with Laura Ingraham last night. Where is all of this coming from in your mind?
Well, it is interesting because when you compare this to Simone, because Simone and her argument, I mean, you would imagine that an Olympian, the best of the best, she's like in a total league of her own. There's no one even close to her. You would imagine she would understand and approach this from an athlete, which of course she didn't, but she didn't necessarily have to be politically competent. In AOC, her position, it of course is morally bankrupt, but it's just totally politically ignorant. Not only is this something that, 100% of the Republican Party and those who voted for Donald Trump, the 77 million people who voted for Donald Trump, agree with, that men shouldn't be in women's sports. But it's I would say 80% of the Democratic Party. I think the number in the Gallup polls has been somewhere between 60, 70. I think it's more than that of their own party that don't agree with them. And so why is she doing this? I think it's something that's successful on social media platforms where you can kind of acquire that cesspool of radical, insane lunatics, which those exist on X. I think her initial post got 45 million views. So you can imagine the past 24 hours, what my messages on all platforms
I can
look
only
like when
imagine.
you're having to field 45 million AOC cronies who just follow her page and listen to what she says. But I don't know. It's not politically expedient at all. And I think that the terrifying point here is that this is the leader of their party. People like Crockett and AOC and Mamdani, that's who all other Democrats at all levels, by the way, that's who they look to. Try to find me a moderate Democrat. Clay, I think you tweeted it a few weeks ago talking about how Fetterman was the most sane Democrat, and there's not even a close second. Like try and think of a moderate Democrat at any level. There just isn't one. So this is their party's leader. This is what I guess they believe will work, but we will continue to see them lose in 2026 and 2028 and further on if they continue with, supporting the policies, the harmful policies that they support.
Thank you so much, Riley, for being here.
And congrats again to you and Louie.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys. I want to see a video of Buck in this commercial break.
Oh, this serve is going to happen, everybody. It's going to happen.
I wish you could see him with the rubber band trying to loosen up the right shoulder during the commercial breaks.
That was in the trust. That was in the trust tree. That was in the trust tree, and Clay is now violating trust tree. Okay, that's enough of that. But yes, Riley, I am trying to limber up this old man's shoulder just a little bit, like the backstroke, only for the tennis court. Thank you for being here, Riley.
Well, thank you, guys.
Look, being safe in your home is critical. It should be a given, but you can't just rely on the authorities. You got to be able to defend yourself when the time comes. And that just means being prepared and having the best non-lethal self-defense products in the market from Sabre. Sabre's website is SABRE, sabreradio.com. That's sabreradio.com. Their products empower you to protect yourself and your family with easy to use, easy to understand equipment that gives you peace of mind at home. And look, I'm somebody who likes having the force escalation option. So yes, of course, I've got a lot of lethal options here, a lot of 2A in my household, but also for carry and for my own purposes, it's good to be able to defend yourself with non-lethal options first, if you so choose. And this is where Sabre comes in. A lot of people like to have that possibility of first trying the non-lethal. A lot of the people listening want to only go non-lethal because they're more comfortable with that. Sabre has hundreds of thousands of Americans that they have safeguarded with their products. Sabre's Home Defense Pepper Projectile Spray Launcher may just be your ultimate choice for home protection. Small enough to hold in one hand, it fires off a round projectile full of pepper spray, slowing down an intruder or attacker. Sabre's projectiles pack a serious non-lethal punch, create a 6-foot pepper cloud spray upon impact, causing sensory irritation. Find dozens of products just like this that Sabre makes. Go to sabreradio.com. Save 15% on that website today. That's SABRE radio.com or call 844-824-SAFE, 844-824-SAFE.
Keep up with the biggest political comeback in world history on the Team 47 podcast. Clay and Buck highlight Trump replays from the week. Sundays at noon Eastern. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast.